light. No, it just looks weird in here.
Yes, great in
I'm
there. All right.
with space. I'm obsessed with space. Okay, that can start us off.
That can start us off. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew Hegum. I am the founder and CEO of 10kcreators.com on a mission to help artists thrive financially and otherwise. I'm really excited to be here today with one of my longest standing clients. You started with me very early on, Clyde. And I'm very happy about that. And yeah, we've just been having a great time getting some of her films out into the world. And so we thought, hey, wouldn't it be awesome to invite one of the collaborators on to have a creative conversation, get you as the perspective and soon to be viewer of those films behind the scenes. So here we are, joined by Leighann Kowalsky. Did I say that right? Yes, awesome.
Nailed it.
Thank you. So I'm going to have Clyde introduce herself first, just so you can get a little bit more familiar with her work, and then we'll pass it on to Leighann and we'll take it from there. So Clyde, why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay. Thank you, Matthew. And hello, everyone. My name is Clyde Fusei Forth, and I'm the founder and artistic director of Locus Barcia Dance Projects. And our mission for the last 10 years has been to in a nutshell, increase chances for intimacy with ourselves and with movement through live performance and movement education. And now that has shifted dramatically into mostly dance films and their creation and opportunities to view and work with the material created around those films as a movement education experience. So I guess that wasn't really much of a nutshell. That was like an expanded nut salad for it, like it. But there it is. And yeah, very excited to have worked with Matthew in this way for quite a while. And before this way, even as dancers, Matthew worked with me in a couple of different pieces, going back to the previous iteration of this company in 2009, 10, 11, I think it was.
That's not right. Yeah.
Anyway, and then joined also here by Leighann Kowalsky, who is, gosh, a long-standing collaborator, but also someone who I've known much longer than that, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to tell a very quick, once I say who I am and what I am, I want to say one of my first memories of you, Clyde, because I think it sets this beautiful scene. I'm Leighann Kowalsky. I'm also an artist, of course. I work predominantly at the intersection of dance and circus and film. Longtime collaborator with Clyde, although Matthew, I feel like I love your mission of helping artists to thrive financially and otherwise. I feel like that's also one of my goals. I love that. So that's really great. I'm delighted to be here. And to talk a little bit more about what collaborations Clyde and I have been up to in our two films specifically. But I have this distinct moment of my first time taking you in, Clyde. We were both performing in a choreographer's showcase. I was dancing for another choreographer, and you were presenting a work of your own, and we would hide behind the wing and watch the other performers perform. And you came in the house door with this massive headdress of sticks on and did this dance that involved stillness and perplexity and thought, and there was clearly so much happening that I did not yet understand, and I was like, who is this, and can we be friends, please? There is something really majestic and magnificent in that moment, and like fast forward and here we are. But that's one of my earliest memories of you. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to share one of my earliest memories of you then, because it was even before that. Back in the Sola Sanlé days.
Oh God. Okay.
You were there. You were at the same showcase that Leighann and I both performed at annually for several years. I think I started, like, my first year was 2005, and it's still ongoing, and we're both increasingly involved in the production of it. But at a certain point in that history, Leighann was performing, teaching, and also guiding other younger dancers in performing this very athletic, percussive Irish step dancing, which also in their particular iteration of it had a very contemporary flair. It was amazing to watch. It always brought the house down. And I just remember Leighann backstage, like, and on stage, completely like killing it and making everybody wonder, like, how did we get our legs to do that? And then backstage, just being like such the mom of all of these younger performers and there was a gaggle of them, like a gaggle, like we filled the entire dressing room. It was lovely, and I felt the same way. I was like, I need to know her.
Oh,
And here we
helping
are.
artists thrive in all the
That's
ways,
right.
in all the stages. We're
Yay.
really all on the same team here.
Yeah,
Exactly. And so
indeed.
now you know each other. Yay, congratulations. And you know each other well, as I've come to, or perhaps as I would assume on some level. And so I actually want to kind of drill in and get very specific about, because we're talking about dance film, right? And we're talking about the two film, well, there's 3 films available on 10kcreators.com. 2 of them you supported, Leighann. And I know that your collaboration with Clyde happens before that. So I'd love to know, like, what was the first dance film project that the 2 of you worked on? Yeah, let's start there. Tell me a little bit about that project and what happened, and just kind of the context of like what it meant for you to begin that journey of becoming collaborators.
Well, the
We
way I remember it really was the first collaboration was because of COVID,
Mm,
that we had to do that year's version of the showcase as a live stream.
mm,
And so
Yeah.
all of us that were presenting work were going into the theater, and Leighann was filming us. And I had done other, movement video work and done it on my own or had other people film it, and it was a very different animal. But in that context, Leighann was shooting in this way. I don't know. She like was inside of this very I don't know how to describe it. This very quiet, reverent, personal space. I felt like she was like in it with me, and it was, and we had known each other, so that felt really comfortable. And then when I saw the result of it, I was like, damn, like that was really not just her filming me. That was a thing that happened. And so anyway, that showcase happened. That piece was performed virtually the way it was, and then I was working on. I had started to work on Still Together, and I had been working on the scores for it for a bit, and it was starting to blend with the piece that she had filmed for that showcase, and then thinking about what I wanted to do with it, being that it looked like we weren't going to be able to really do a live production for quite some time. I just kind of thought, well, what if we do it as a film, and we use this space that I had learned about, that the pieces started to fall together, and I was like, there was nobody else on my mind actually um, to be the cinematographer for it than Leighann, and so I asked her, and she said, yeah.
I did. And I think one of the interesting things about that concert that needed to be on film because of COVID, um, and that piece that we worked together almost not on purpose, like it just sort of happened that we worked together for that. Um, it, a lot of dance film is shot either on a tripod from 3 angles, or there's less live active decision making happening, I might say, and I'm on some sort of gimbal gyroscopic device. Sometimes it's even just handheld, and I'm moving in response, which makes this really different tangible energy that's accessible. And I think that's what made that piece feel so different on film than it was live, the piece for the filmed dance concert at the choreographers showcase. And then I think that also sort of aided and abetted the Still Together film, because it was that sense of, if the camera's just on a tripod filming dancers moving in a house, we're still not together. But like making it clear that there's a live a live human, a live thinking brain behind the camera. And wait, is it me or is it you? You know, is it the viewer?
Mm.
I think that that makes such a big difference for that film.
Well, and I want to stay on that point for a moment because and before we get into the details of the two works in conversation, and that is this idea of like what is dance film and like what and like where is the line? Is there a line at all between the choreographer and the cinematographer? And what I really appreciate about what you were sharing is how you kind of got in there and you were responsive and you have a dance background, so I would assume that intuitively you would sort of understand some things about a body in motion and space and time and being able to relate to that and understanding how to sort of be with another human being as they're moving. But also you're making, if choreography on some level is framing movement, then you're making choreographic choices as much as Clyde is. So how did you navigate that dynamic, and like what were the conversations like about the footage that you were collecting?
Hmm. It was I mean, there was a brief conversation at the beginning of that shoot about what I was going to be doing and how what the important themes were and kind of places where I didn't want to be crossed and play, like, but I felt confident from the get-go that Leighann understood what I was getting at. This piece was it actually ended up being my solo in Still Together, the live performance. And it was at that time, it was a shorter piece called Lux Eterna. And it was just these two crossing pools of light. And I was basically doing like a duet with light and experimenting with the texture and feeling and look and just everything. I just been studying light, everything, and talking with Leighann just about like what that meant, what I was doing with the light, and just like could see that that was transmitted. She understood what I was going for, and also like we had a rapport. And just in terms of like everything that you're saying about Leann's being involved in the choreographic process by virtue of filming it, so true. And also kind of I think I responded to that because I had never been super interested in making strictly proscenium work. Like before I started making work the way I do now, I was creating installations and performing inside them or doing site specific work. And so really much more preferring to choreograph my work with kind of a demand that it be seen from at least two sides, if not in the round. And so having it filmed in that way helped me achieve that goal. Actually, I didn't feel like I lost anything by not having to or getting to perform that proscenium work, seen on a stage by people sitting on an audience facing it. And that carried through into the film for sure, which we're going to talk about, and also into the live piece, which we did. I designed the space so that audience members were seeing it through us, or we're seeing each other through us dancing. And then the film was actually projected before they saw the live version. So they got it twice.
Got it. So let's well, Leighann, did you want to respond to any of what Clyde just shared before I ask the next question?
Gosh, there was totally something, and then I put it to the side so I could stay in active listening mode, and now it's gone. But oh no, I've got it. Okay, I just want to add. That something so interesting about the collaboration, specifically, I think for this piece. I think there's a cognitive scientist out there whose name I should probably like pass on if I'm gonna reference this, but that suggests that there are 7 slots of attention that you can hold at any moment. And so I think that it was interesting to have to know what was in frame, but have to see also what the dancer was going to be doing and responding, and then like holding these other details of the piece. And I think the wild thing about the film versus the dance versus just the scores that went into it is that they all had full slots of attention to, like any audience member viewing the film, watching live, any dancer, any cinematographer all had like 7 full slots of attention, and it was interesting to make the decision, conscious or not conscious, about like what you replace. Like, do you notice the audience member sitting across from you for a moment and replace with this, you know?
Hmm.
So I don't know, that was something I was always thinking about while I was filming this piece particularly.
Hmm.
It's because you can read my mind.
So.
Like, I know that thing. There's like, you can remember a 7-digit number or 7 words of a phrase. Like that's the number. And yeah, there's like this thing that I really love. And I don't think of myself as a maximalist at all. And when you see the films, you'll see they're very spare actually in their aesthetic. But yeah, like the complexity of having like multiple rules in a score to remember and enact at all times, multiple possibilities of angle. Like I definitely think and work in uh, constellations. I think of them like that.
Hmm.
Yeah, and Leighann gets that obviously, and she can articulate it better than me, so that's good.
Cool.
7 digits of attention. That might be the title of the next piece.
We do. All right, so let's talk about the first film. And I believe that was Still Together was the first one that you dove in together in that regard. So tell me about that. And let Clyde, let's start with you. So people who don't know the film, can you give sort of the brief nutshell version, and then we'll kind of dig in a little deeper.
Right. So, having started researching and working with light in 2019, that led me to these micro scores that were focusing on stillness, or just it evolved. It evolved that they were very still, and I became really fascinated with micro movement and time passing, because once you get involved in stillness and micro movement, time is right there. And then the meditative quality of mind that is required to hold those things. And so those 5 factors, right? Light, time, stillness, micro movement, and meditation were like what I was interested in, and started building that, and built this score that I ended up calling the Arrival score. And that is one of the supplemental materials actually that you get when you download the film from 10K Creators. And so this score, in a short version, what the audience is seeing is largely stillness punctuated by movement. But what the dancers are engaged in order to achieve that, is this multi-factor score. So they're doing a lot, but you're not seeing a lot happen. And so, and then there are these other sections of the piece that we developed at a little residency that we gave ourselves at Earth Dance. And so there, just things like crossing the space very slowly, like things that really explored time and patience and relatedness and all of these things. And then we couldn't do the piece as a live performance for a long time. And so I had moved out to a small town in Schoharie County, New York, called Jefferson. And on the way to Jefferson, each time I would drive back and forth, I was passing this crazy derelict hotel. I mean, and I'd actually been making this little jaunt for years and years, because the place where we were living was a house that we'd been to, on weekends a lot. And so the Lexington Hotel, I come to find out, is what this crazy, railroad era building actually is. And then come to find out, the person who owns it, Alex Rodriguez, wonderful person, has purchased this building and the land around it, created a nonprofit called Lexington Arts and Sciences, and is trying to make this place a place where people will do things again, because it used to be an arts center, back in the 80s, before like some flood kind of ruined everything. And so I just found his details, was like, hey, like, we kind of want to make this film, and I'm thinking I'd like to film it with each dancer in a separate room because COVID, and like, maybe we could come check out your hotel. And he was like, yes, there's no heat and there's no electricity and this and that and the other thing, and you'd be welcome to film there. And I was like, great. So I went there and I walked in, he took me, and it was just like time had stopped in the middle of some kind of apocalypse. it was really like the spaces were, and other artists had been in there like, but very long ago. Like there were just remnants of things. There were, yeah. So there was this kind of patina or this pentimento of layers and layers of past activity, and I thought, okay, yeah, this is good, and I really jived with Alex and what he was trying to do. So Leighann got on board, and we went and we chose. I had two other dancers, one of which I'd worked a long time with, and one who was new. And we had been doing Zoom rehearsals like everyone was, and then we went to the space and we each chose a room that we sort of vibed with to have our shoot in. And what I decided we would do is that we were just going to do the middle section, the section that's based on this arrival score that involved all the stillness, and that each dancer would do that whole piece in their room by themselves, and Leighann would film it, and then we would somehow cut it into whatever it was going to be. And so that's what we did.
Thank you.
And take it away, Leighann.
Yeah, Leighann. So what was your experience of that whole journey?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think I have this really distinct memory of showing up a little early with a suitcase and then like a suitcase full of video equipment. But being very aware that it's called the Lexington Hotel and being very concerned that the passersby thought I just got it wrong. You can't actually stay overnight in this hotel because I'm sitting there waiting for Clyde with my suitcase on the side of the road. Anyway, yeah, it's true. No heat, no electric. We had to really think through every detail of the logistics, from battery powered speakers to rechargeable this. I think there was one place you could plug in some stuff, and that was about it. Um and speaking of patina, I feel like there's this thing in dance land where the floor holds memory, and whenever you walk into a studio or a theater, you can sort of feel who came before you if you are working on that floor. And it's super weird because if you ever work in a new space, you feel like you need to like scratch it or bang it or like something to leave something behind. There's nothing there. And this place had so much memory in its floors. It was amazing. And so it was so not surprising that the dancers had their rooms. And as a dancer myself, there was a room that I was really drawn to that I ended up doing a little like selfie recording of myself improvising in it because I needed to also move in this space and leave a mark. But yeah, I also remember in that time of COVID, we couldn't all be there at the same time. So right down to the very logistics, there was this like interesting separateness that was happening in the filming of it. There was I think you like slotted the dancers in certain time slots, and then there was the one overlapping moment to do the hallway section. That was it.
Yeah, I remember
Um,
we all had to agree to that because it
mhm,
was kind of a new idea. That was like a last
mhm,
minute, like, can we all agree that we feel okay about that? And it
yeah,
was such a relief. And in the film too, I find even now when I watch that film, that moment is such a relief when we're all just like flowing back and forth through the hallway, because it's the only time that we're all in frame together,
yeah, yeah.
and dancing in unison. And in the piece itself, it's also the only part of that piece where anyone is doing anything in unison. No, that's not true. It's the only part of that long section
Mm.
of the piece where
Mm.
there's any like unison kind of scored movement, and it's very satisfying.
Mm.
It's very satisfying. And of course, the editing process should have been so much harder than it was because there was so much footage and it's a longer film. Yeah, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's quite a short film, but longer than a 5-minute dance piece that you're used to seeing if you go to the local choreographer showcase and so on and so forth. But it was also quite meticulous because due to the stillness in the physical body, um, like a reflection from a car passing by could spoil the frame in an instant. I mean, you really had to go through frame by frame and check every detail. But I remember the editing process not being terribly revisionary because it was sort of like we had done so much clear communicating ahead of time about what the priorities were, what this wanted to feel like when it was born. And so I mean, I know it took a long time to get there, but it wasn't a labor intensive process compared to
Hmm.
other editing projects.
Yeah, I
Maybe you have a
recall.
very different experience.
No, I had the exact same experience. We had talked out, no, we didn't I didn't storyboard it, but I mean, the choreography was what it was, and that was understood. And I had laid out kind of my thinking about beginning, middle, end, and some ideas about space. And also we were open to we filmed other stuff as possibilities while we were there. But, you know, we had all this footage, like way more than we thought. We thought this, do you remember this? We thought we were making a 14-minute film. That's
I
what
do
we thought we
remember
were doing.
that.
And it turned out that it was 24 minutes and it really couldn't be a minute shorter
Mm,
because we
Yeah.
decided to just use the entire span and
mm,
so that the music could run continuously. And that was the time consuming part, actually, was getting the rights to the music.
mm.
But
Yeah,
Yeah.
which we did eventually do. Yay.
twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, got it. Yeah. Exactly. All right. So I want to kind of shift to the second film, and I'll use a bridging question, right? So the second film is Coming and Going. And Clyde, I'd like you to maybe again explain a little bit about what that film is about for people who have not seen it. But then I want you to also answer the question, what did you learn in this last collaboration on Still Together that you then carried with you or explored further as you stepped into the second film?
Okay, that's a really good question, and I'll think about it.
Yep, it'll brew in the subconscious.
But
This one.
the yeah, Coming and Going is essentially about a relationship, I suppose, a relationship between myself and a person who was someone who I'd been working with in movement for many years, and who was also a very close, like almost like a parent figure to me. And he had ALS. And so, as I was continuing to dance and do more and more things, his body was declining, and I was working with him with that. And the way that, I was working with him initially, for many, many years as his Pilates teacher. And he was, you know, wicked strong and one of my advanced students. And then started noticing these symptoms together. We're noticing these things, and all that happened. And so, by the time uh, we're still working together. I'm still working with him as his sort of movement therapist, but no longer, Pilates is no longer possible. And so we begin doing this kind of passive mobilization that I had learned a bit of in grad school, and was just basically intuiting from him what did his body need at any given time to help alleviate, to keep whatever could be strong. I'm learning about neuromuscular disorders and diseases, and like what even is ALS, which is, the answer is we don't really know. And we're creating, and while all of this is happening over these 8 years, we're essentially having this long duet. And then every week, once he was completely bound to the bed, more or less, the bed or the wheelchair, this duet was really, the site of all of it was in the bed. So that's what the film was. I just wanted to make a film of this duet. I thought it was a very interesting idea that we were dancing together after all these years, and the way that it was the way that it was. Um, and also, in our own ways, even before, and he did pass recently, he passed the day before Thanksgiving 2023. But, even as this is happening, we're both grieving in our own ways the loss of his movement. And so, yeah, the film is about the relationship, about the complex ways that we lose things, and have joy in that, even. Yeah, something like that.
Thank you. And so the second part of that question
Yeah, I think what I learned about one of the important things that I learned by doing the first film with Leighann is that I could completely trust her eye.
Mm.
That she, I mean, it's so funny. I've sometimes thought, and I hope this doesn't sound weird or embarrass you, Leighann, but if I could ever meet like a romantic partner that saw me the way Leann's camera sees me, I would never leave them. It would just be like the way that Leighann pulls whatever is best about what I'm doing out of it is just uncanny. And so I knew that I could completely trust her. And so what we did is I gave her a sense of kind of play by play. I did kind of give you a shot list, right?
Yeah.
A specific thing we were doing, and then we shot it. And then I said, okay, I'm going into silent retreat. I'm not going to be available at all for a whole week, and we're screening this basically the day before I get out. So you and Rainer like figure out the rest of it. And Rainer Reeves Cohen is the composer of the track, and he'll be in a subsequent conversation with us. But and so I basically just gave her carte blanche to edit it, and I don't think I even really saw the final. I saw one kind of cut of it maybe before it screened, and I had never heard the track, the score. I had never heard the music until I went to the screening and it was exactly what it needed to be.
That's cool. So, Leighann, what was your experience working on this film?
Yeah, this film was maybe the hardest one I've ever been a part of. And I've like shot in Louisiana like mud pits where I thought I was gonna get eaten by alligators. I mean, like this was like next level because I also didn't fully realize what I was walking into, I don't think. I was not prepared for the state that our your duet partner was in um at all. And I think that the the really extreme vulnerability of this human letting me come in. I don't know. I don't have the 8-year long relationship with this human. And there was like such bravery in that that I was like so taken aback walking in, like what am I doing here? Like this is pretty fantastic, pretty phenomenal, over the top. And I think that invitation and the way that Clyde held space for that to sort of happen and happen seamlessly, I feel like I grew decades in that like 1 hour of shooting, experiencing what these two other humans were putting out there for me. And processing the footage was, I think, like definitely one of the most intense experiences that I think I've gone through with film projects before. So that all aside, not dissimilar from Still Together, it's still this, what is this other perspective so that the person watching this feels like they're there too, and that they can experience empathy in a very tangible, visceral way. um, and crafting that, I think there's a certain embodiment that has to go into being behind the camera and holding the camera in that moment. But that moment was really hard to stay embodied during shooting that, and we only had 60 minutes. We could have, right? I think we only had 60 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, we could have probably shot longer, but so I had the conversation with John, and he had seen Still Together. He had, in fact, majorly supported Still Together. While
Mm.
we're showing gratitude to John, he was a major supporter of the work. So, and he wanted this film to happen. When I said the
Mm.
idea, he was like eager for it, and he, did fully invite Leighann to be there. And
Mm.
we decided to do the shoot within an hour-long appointment that I normally have with him, and so we did that, and then Leighann and I spent some extra time just shooting the more abstract movement that I was doing as a soloist. And we ended up actually, we were going to go to a different location to shoot that, but we actually ended up shooting that in his atrium too, which made it ended up being the very best possible thing. And then we had a third shoot that didn't even end up in that film. It might be a separate film. So far, we tried to do another edit of it, adding in that other footage, and it just didn't need to be there. So yeah, it was a little, yeah. I still haven't. I have not watched that film again since he passed. It is as it's hard to watch, and I've shown it to other people along the way, and yeah, like the reaction that I've gotten so far is that it's like one of those things. Like it's so beautiful that it's hard to look away, and it's also so like tenderizing that it's hard to watch, but not in a way like you don't want to watch it. Like it's one of those. And if you know anybody who has any kind of degenerative disease, or if you're a caregiver for someone, like I'm tapping into all of that plus, and there's some other themes that I'm working with as a dancer and as a movement teacher and therapist, is like, yeah, there's other stuff going on in there about what it means to come and go. What does that actually mean?
Cool. So we are well at time, so we're going to wrap this up. And obviously, there's so much richness here that like we might even need to do a part 2 at some point as this unfolds. But I guess I want to kind of ask a final question before we do wrap up. And you know, I guess so. I know the two of you are working on another film. Is that correct? Ish, maybe in the future. I hope. I hope, right? Like, and that would be my dream, right? So I'm manifesting that dream. And I'm curious, like, as you reflect back on the work that you've done so far, like, what is the gift that you received as an artist from the collaboration? What is the thing that, like, and you know, you Clyde, like, and both of you both answer this question. What is the gift that you received from working with each other? And it could be big or small, an insight, an idea, even just the experience.
I don't have a word for that at this moment. I mean, there's like, to say gratitude and inspiration makes it sound like a Hallmark card, but it's that like plus plus plus. I don't know. It's a gift to have someone see your vision and then come to make it even just that much clearer. And I feel like that's what I'm grateful for to Leighann.
Yeah, I feel like mine is not dissimilar, but it's actually hilariously almost like on the other end of that. Like I think I've grown to be somebody who's really careful with the words that I choose and the way that I like describe things, or the English language is not always enough for me. But I feel like Clyde always not only understands what I'm saying, but understands why I chose the word that I use. And I mean that not just in that specific way, but in the like big art way too. Does that make sense? And like I don't think I have so many collaborators who really like see the details I chose and know why I chose them fully 100%.
Yeah, it's like the words that come to mind when I think about the two of you is intimacy, intuition, and knowing, right? And they're like those are words that kind of come to mind. Yeah,
There it is.
Nice.
Knowing and also not knowing, like being really free to like be like,
yeah. Well, and I feel like that's where the intimacy comes in, because you need trust to be intimate in this collaboration. And it's like you have this ability to be with each other in close proximity, working on something that is being created, and you're in it together, and there's definitely an awareness of each other that's distinct, you know. So yay, awesome. Well, Leighann, thank you. Clyde, thank you for being here. I appreciate both of you. So this is a 2-part series. We'll have the musician on, the collaborating on the music come on, I think next Monday, if I'm not mistaken.
it is. Yeah.
right?
So we
Okay, and Rainer is his name.
Rainer Reeves Cohen. Yes.
And so we'll hear from Rainer and learn a little bit more about the music behind these two dance films. If you'd like to watch them, they are available on 10kcreators.com. If you're watching this video on YouTube, it's going to be somewhere in the description below. If you're watching it on Instagram, it's going to be somewhere up there. Go ahead and click the link, check it out. It is a pay what you can model. So, you know, whether you can pay $1 or you can pay $7, you can pay $20, you can pay $100,000. We will accept all of the gifts. For sure. And just so you know, a portion of the proceeds does go to several charitable organizations. You can learn more about that at 10kcreators.com. And with that, thank you, Leighann, and thank you, Clyde. Have a beautiful day. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.